Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that few will dare say aloud. Your life right now is the sum total of your patterns. Not your potential, not your dreams, not even your intelligence, just your habits, your repeated choices, your autopilot reactions, your ruts. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they are enslaved by patterns, repetitive actions, thoughts, and beliefs that operate quietly in the background of their lives, undetected, unchallenged, and unbroken. These patterns are not loud. They don't announce themselves like enemies. They arrive in the form of routines that feel safe, habits that seem harmless, thoughts that seem rational. But over time, they tighten around your potential like a noose. Mediocrity doesn't rush in. It creeps. It shows up when you hit snooze, just this once. When you tell yourself, I'll start Monday. When you accept what's easy over what's necessary, one small compromise at a time, and what begins as a survival strategy becomes a lifestyle. The same thoughts, the same reactions, the same people, the same results. Day after day, year after year, we're taught to respect consistency, but there is a difference between consistency and stagnation. A pattern becomes dangerous the moment it keeps you from evolving. The moment it tells you, this is just who you are. That's when it becomes a silent chain, linking your current self to your former self, trapping you in a loop where nothing new can be born. The terrifying thing about these chains is how invisible they are. You don't notice them until something wakes you up, a crisis, a failure, a confrontation, or a feeling of being deeply unfulfilled, even when everything looks fine on the surface. Until then, life feels normal. That's the trick. Patterns make even the worst situations feel normal. Chaos becomes routine, struggle becomes identity, and you start defending the very things that are holding you down. People aren't afraid of hard work. They're afraid of letting go of what they know, because deep down, breaking a pattern means stepping into unfamiliar territory. It means giving up emotional addictions, the rush of procrastination, the comfort of complaining, the thrill of being busy but going nowhere. It means admitting that you've outgrown the thinking that got you here, and most people would rather live in predictable misery than face the unknown. But here's what most never realize. The mind isn't loyal to your potential. It's loyal to your patterns. It will always take the path of least resistance. It will default to the most familiar response, even if that response is the very thing holding you back. That's why awareness isn't enough. You can't just know your patterns. You have to interrupt them, challenge them, replace them, not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly and ruthlessly until a new pattern takes root. These silent chains are built through repetition, and they can only be broken the same way, one conscious decision at a time, one new action, one bold response, until the old chain rusts and falls away, not with noise but with the quiet certainty that you've outgrown what once ruled you. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your compass. In a world addicted to convenience, most people run at the first sign of unease. They seek the shortest route, the softest cushion, the easiest option. But what they don't realize is that by avoiding discomfort, they are also avoiding growth. The human mind and spirit were not designed for comfort zones. They were built to expand, to stretch, to rise, and nothing triggers that expansion like discomfort. Discomfort is the forge where strength is made. It's the friction that sharpens the blade of character. It doesn't ask for your permission, and it won't wait for you to feel ready. It shows up the moment you try to elevate beyond your current self, the moment you demand more from your body, your habits, your thinking. Discomfort is there, not as punishment, but as proof that you're stepping into new territory. Every breakthrough you've ever admired came with pain behind it. The author who wrote a masterpiece endured countless hours of creative frustration. The athlete who broke records bled in silence when no one was watching. The entrepreneur who built an empire stared down doubt, failure, and rejection more times than they care to admit. Their power wasn't born in the moments that felt good. It was born in the discomfort they refused to escape from. The truth most people avoid is this: comfort keeps you average. It keeps you compliant, predictable, easy to control. Discomfort, on the other hand, creates fire. It reveals your weaknesses, not to shame you, but to show you exactly where your next level lives. It holds up a mirror and says, here, right here is where the work must be done. And when you lean into that pain, not run from it, You become someone new. What people call resilience is really just a high tolerance for discomfort. The ability to stand still when your mind screams to run, to keep going when your emotions beg for relief, to sit in silence when distraction calls your name. That's where real power is forged. Not in doing what feels good, but in doing what is necessary even when it burns. Discomfort is the gatekeeper to every version of yourself that you haven't met yet. That stronger, bolder, clearer you doesn't live inside your comfort zone. They live on the other side of it, and the only currency that pays your way there is pain. Temporary pain, the discomfort of discipline, the discomfort of facing truth, the discomfort of walking alone when others stay behind. You can read all the books, watch all the videos, chant all the affirmations, but until you're willing to step into discomfort on purpose, daily consistently, you will remain at the level you're trying to escape. Because comfort feels good in the moment, but it always comes with a cost, your power, and discomfort, while painful in the present, will hand you everything that comfort quietly steals. The mind is the most powerful tool you possess, but only when it's under your command. Left unchecked, it becomes a tyrant, a master of limitation, a machine programmed by fear, memory, repetition, and emotion. Most people live their entire lives as servants to their own minds, mistaking thought for truth and reaction for reality. They follow whatever story their mind tells them, not realizing they can rewrite it at any time. The mind doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about survival. Its job is to keep you safe, not to make you great. So when you start reaching for more growth, more discipline, more risk, it interprets that as danger. It floods you with doubt, resistance, excuses, and fear, not because you're weak, but because the mind is simply doing what it's been trained to do, protect the status quo. That's why transformation begins the moment you stop blindly obeying your thoughts and start questioning them. Just because a thought is loud doesn't make it true. Just because a fear feels real doesn't mean it's valid. The mind can only work with the material it's been fed, your past experiences, the environments you've absorbed, the narratives you've repeated. And if all it's been given is mediocrity, scarcity, trauma, or failure, then that's the lens it will use to interpret everything you try to do. But here's what most people forget. You are not your mind. You are the observer, the decider, the one with the power to direct where the mind goes, how it thinks, and what it focuses on. You don't have to listen to every fearful whisper or anxious thought. You can stand in the middle of chaos and declare, I choose differently. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who never feel doubt or fear. They are the ones who feel it and act anyway, because they've trained their minds to follow, not lead. They've developed the ability to pause between stimulus and response. They understand that emotion is not command and that thoughts are not destiny. They've become masters not by silencing their minds, but by mastering the art of command. It's no different than training a wild animal. The mind will resist at first. It will fight for old comforts and familiar patterns. It will try to drag you back into the known, but through repetition, discipline, and awareness, it begins to obey. When you wake up and decide to move forward anyway, when you speak life instead of fear, when you choose focus over distraction again and again, the mind learns who's in charge. Most people feed their minds junk and wonder why they can't think clearly. They surround themselves with noise, drama, and negativity, then expect their mind to produce clarity and confidence. But the mind, like any servant, reflects its training. It becomes what you demand of it. Speak chaos to it, and chaos will run your life. Speak order, and it will build structure. Speak belief, and it will find a way. Willpower isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Just like muscle, it starts weak, it fatigues under stress, and it grows only through resistance. Most people misunderstand willpower. They think it's some mystical force that shows up when they need it most, but it's not magic, it's not motivation, it's not mood, it's a skill, a discipline, a force that strengthens only through use, repetition, and intentional challenge. At first, it's fragile. You say no to a distraction once and you feel exhausted. You get up early for 2 days and your body begs to sleep in on the third. That's normal. Just like the gym, your first workout doesn't build strength, it reveals weakness, and that's not something to be ashamed of. It's a signal that training has begun. The soreness is a sign you're no longer living at the level of convenience. People rely too much on feeling ready to act, but willpower doesn't wait for readiness. It shows up when you act before you feel like it. when you choose discipline over ease, when you stay committed long after the initial excitement has faded, in those moments when it's hard, when no one's watching, when you want to quit, that's where willpower grows. The challenge is that willpower, like muscle, gets depleted. You can't expect to resist every temptation, fight every urge, make every hard choice, and stay sharp without rest or strategy. That's why environment matters. That's why routines matter. You don't leave your gains in the gym to chance, and you can't afford to leave your willpower to luck either. Set yourself up to win. Remove what weakens you. Reduce the number of choices you have to make. Automate what doesn't need emotion. Protect your energy the same way an athlete protects their body. But understand this, willpower alone is not enough. Just like muscle, it's not meant to do all the work forever. You train it to a level where you can build systems, habits, and standards that take over. When you're disciplined long enough, the hard things become automatic. Waking up early is no longer a battle. Eating clean is no longer a debate. Showing up for your goals is no longer a question. It's just who you are now. And if you stop training it just like muscle, it shrinks. Neglect leads to weakness. Indulgence leads to softness. The same things that once felt easy begin to feel impossible again. That's why the commitment must be ongoing. You don't stop sharpening the blade just because it cut once. You don't stop lifting just because you hit a personal best. Willpower demands maintenance, daily, consistently, not out of punishment but out of purpose. There will always be moments when you're tempted to revert, when life presses down on you and your mind whispers, just this once. That's when your training shows. That's when your reps pay off. That's when you realize willpower isn't about doing the hard thing once. It's about becoming someone who does the hard thing, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when no one would blame you for quitting. Success isn't born from comfort. It doesn't grow in stillness, and it doesn't thrive in routine. It demands disruption, deliberate, conscious, and often uncomfortable disruption, the kind that rattles your patterns, rewires your thinking, and forces you to face the truth about how you've been living. Without disruption, there is no reinvention, and without reinvention, there is no elevation. Most people crave change, but only on the surface. They want different results without a different process. They want progress without pain, transformation without turbulence. But real success never comes dressed in ease. It comes through interruption of your habits, your beliefs, your circle, your mindset, and your identity. The moment you decide to rise, you become a threat to everything that has kept you small. Deliberate disruption means you stop waiting for life to shake you awake. You stop waiting for rock bottom to force your hand. You take initiative. You make the cut. You change the pace. You question what others accept. You stop going with the flow and start creating your own current. You understand that the price of progress is discomfort, and you pay it willingly, even when it costs relationships, convenience, or short-term validation. There is no growth in repetition without reflection. Doing the same things every day and expecting a different life is the greatest illusion of all. What you tolerate, you validate. What you ignore, you repeat. So success requires a level of self-interrogation that most run from. You must dissect your habits like a surgeon, identify the ones that serve your vision, and cut away everything else without hesitation. This is not chaos, it's strategy. Disruption doesn't mean destruction, it means evolution. It means you recognize when your current level of operating is no longer fit for your future. It means you stop asking, is this working? And start asking, is this worthy of where I'm going? Most people won't do this work. They'll hold on to what's familiar until it rots. They'll defend their limitations and call it realism. But the few who are willing to disrupt themselves before life does, they're the ones who rise. They're the ones who rise. They're the ones who lead. They're the ones who make the leap while others hesitate. It takes courage to break what's comfortable, to walk away from systems that once worked but now suffocate, to let go of people who knew the old version of you but can't handle the new one. This is the raw edge where greatness begins, not when everything is smooth, but when everything is shaken, when you dare to question what you've always accepted, when you initiate the shift before the world gives you a reason. Success doesn't show up at the doorstep of the passive. It shows up for the disruptors, the ones who challenge norms, who interrupt themselves mid-comfort, who refuse to stay loyal to a lifestyle that no longer aligns with their potential. They don't wait for perfect timing. They create collisions on purpose. They build pressure to trigger progress. They choose to break what's limiting before it breaks them. Fear is the gatekeeper of transformation. It stands at the threshold of every breakthrough, every next level, every version of you that you haven't met yet. It disguises itself in 1,000 ways: self-doubt, hesitation, excuses, overthinking, perfectionism. But its message is always the same: stay where it's safe, stay where it's familiar. Don't go beyond what you know. And most do just that. They obey. They listen. Not because they lack ambition, but because fear is persuasive. It makes its case with past failures, imagined disasters, and stories that never happened but feel real. Fear doesn't need facts. It only needs repetition. It keeps you locked in patterns, not by force, but by convincing you that anything outside the pattern is danger. And so the cycle continues. Another day, another delay, another excuse dressed up as logic. But what fear never tells you is that on the other side of it lies everything you've been asking for. The confidence you say you want. It's waiting on the other side of doing the very thing that scares you. The success you keep visualizing, it lives beyond the risk you refuse to take. The peace you crave, it's on the other side of letting go, walking away, or stepping forward. Fear is not the wall, it's the door, but the only way it opens is when you walk straight through it. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it. People who seem fearless are not without fear. They've simply built a habit of confronting it. They've learned that fear shrinks when faced. They've trained themselves to move before their minds talk them out of it. They've discovered that the pain of staying stuck eventually outweighs the discomfort of doing the hard thing. Fear often appears when you're about to do something that matters. It doesn't show up for small plans. It rises when you think bigger, aim higher, and stretch further than before. And that's the signal. It's not a stop sign. It's a sign you're on the right path. The presence of fear is proof that you are near a boundary, a limit, a line that most people never cross. And your future doesn't exist on this side of that line. The mind will try to protect you by making the unknown feel like a threat. It will project failure, embarrassment, rejection, and pain. But what it won't project is the truth, the growth that comes from doing it anyway, the pride that comes from showing up scared, the freedom that's born when you stop letting fear dictate your direction. The moment you lean into fear with full presence, its grip loosens. It loses power when you stop running and start acting. Everyone wants change, but few are willing to feel the fear that change demands. Fear is the price of admission to the life you've been pretending to want. The uncomfortable truth is that your future isn't waiting behind a plan, a person, or a stroke of luck. It's waiting behind the thing you keep avoiding. It's waiting just past the conversation you won't have, the leap you won't take, the decision you keep postponing. When you choose to break your patterns, embrace discomfort, command your mind, train your willpower, disrupt your own limits, and face your fears, you begin the process of becoming someone you've never been before. Every step forward demands resistance. Every new level requires a sacrifice, and every breakthrough is earned, not given. Success does not respond to wishes, only to action. It reveals itself to those bold enough to challenge their own conditioning, to rise above emotional gravity, and to move with purpose even when the path is unclear. Your transformation begins the moment you stop waiting and start disrupting everything that's held you back.